All right. We are live. There is no Giglio today. Giglio's in Wilmington. And best I can tell, he has been hanging out at Jimmy's in Wrightsville the whole time. So he should be good and pickled from those slushies. Because when we went, was it last summer we went? And we had some of those vodka slushies. Whoo, goodness. Like, I can hold my liquor, but those slushies, they did their job. We'll just leave it at that. They did their job. So he should be, hopefully he brings the slushie back. I would appreciate one. Anyway, we do have a lot to get into today. So let's go ahead and get this thing going now that we are officially live. Let's podcast alongside. No alongside. See, it's all something that I just say. It just kind of naturally comes out. I've said it so many times. There is no Joe Giglio today. Giglio is still on vacation. He'll be back next week. I am Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties. Thanks to Copiers Plus. We always thank them as our presenting sponsor. You can check them out online at copiers-plus.com. But when we're live, typically on Thursdays during the regular season, and the summer protocols, we're live on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Butcher's Market. Check them out online at thebutchersmarkets.com. They got everything from prepared meals, frozen, ready to go. All you got to do is stick them in the oven for like an hour to 90 minutes, and you'll be eating and eating good. It's fantastic stuff. I'm a big fan of the manicotti. Or whatever grilling needs you have for the upcoming tailgating season with football right around the corner. So hit up the Butcher's Market, locations across the triangle. Speaking of Wilmington, where Giglio is, they got a spot in Wilmington as well. So again, big thanks to the Butcher's Market. Matt Brown, Extra Points newsletter. He's going to join us here in about 5 minutes or so to explain the College Sports Commission of it all regarding Michael Lombardi, UNC inquiry. Are they being investigated? What kind of power do they have? All sorts of questions that are right in his wheelhouse. And he'll do my favorite thing, explain like I'm 5 years old what it all means. And sticking with Belichick, we can all kind of understand where this experiment is going or where it's not going. Andy Staples on 3, also the Yahoo College Football Inquirer. He's going to join us a little bit later on to talk about how nobody likes Lombardi. We've been trying to tell you that. And we'll kind of play it out. We've been getting a lot of feedback in that it's going to take North Carolina a long time to recover from this. Andy and I are on the same page when it comes to this particular topic. We disagree with that sentiment. North Carolina can move on from Bill Belichick and be just fine as long as one thing holds true, which we will talk about. Walker Mehl will also join us too as the Panthers preseason vibes continue. Get his take on what we've seen so far and what Dave Canales is planning on doing in the preseason when they've got two crucial pieces that need the reps before the regular season starts up. One note before we bring on Matt Brown of Extra Points. The ACC predicted order of finish is out. I don't think anybody should be surprised by the order of finish that was put out. Miami, overwhelmingly number one with 165 first-place votes. SMU, second with 6 first-place votes. Louisville with 4 first-place votes. That's your top 3. That's not all that shocking. Those are the types of things that we expected coming out of ACC kickoff. You get the Dabo respect of them finishing 4th, along with some first-place votes. Georgia Tech and what Key's been able to do pretty quickly. I can see where they're giving him some respect, maybe thinking a little outside the norm because of what happened last year with Duke and Virginia. And then speaking of Virginia, a little bit of more difficult schedule. They're 6th. NC State is 7th. Then you got Virginia Tech, Pitt, Duke at 10. And then all the way down to 15 is North Carolina. But here's the real kicker. I have to zoom and enhance on that one. Did I see that correctly? Is that a 1 in parentheses next to Stanford's name, picked to finish last in the ACC? But there was 1 first-place vote. If you're asking if we were the ones who did the one first-place vote, no. As Giglio pointed out on Twitter, if we were to throw a random first-place vote at anybody, it would be Cal. Because after talking to Cal's new coach, I think Giglio and I were ready to run through a wall. Now, the one thing that I did find surprising was NC State at 7. That doesn't exactly fall in line with a lot of the summer discussion around NC State. Something that I pointed out at ACC kickoff and has continued since ACC kickoff is a lot of people are kind of coming around NC State to be the surprise out of the ACC. And when everybody says you're going to be a surprise, well, it's no longer a surprise. And the reason why NC State gets picked to be the surprise coming out of the ACC is really twofold. One is the schedule. The other is the quarterback in CJ Bailey. So much so that even Cam Newton was on his podcast last week. I got the clip, and he was going through the college quarterbacks that he's keeping an eye on. You got your obvious ones like Arch Manning and whatnot, but coming in at number 4 was CJ Bailey. Here's what Cam had to say.
Nobody's talking about C.J. Bailey at North Carolina State. C.J. Bailey was Jeremiah Smith's high school quarterback. That was a really good high school football team.
ACC, are they playing the same type of competition?
I'm glad.
Because a lot of people are like, why would we even compare them to this?
Well, you had guys that play at D2 schools still go. Trey Lance, Carson Wentz. Don't nobody say nothing about that. Don't nobody say Josh Allen went to Wyoming. What C.J. Bailey has been able to produce versus other quarterbacks, it's impressive. At number 5, I got Julian Saint. But boy, when you throwing it to the Carnell Tates and the Jeremiah Smiths, Peggy, you can doggone go out there and look like you all world too.
This even that.
So anyway, that's Cam Newton talking about CJ Bailey. That falls in line with a lot of things that we've been saying. He's going to get a lot of love. It's year 3. We don't see this very often in college football at places like NC State. Typically, a guy like CJ Bailey is off securing the money somewhere else. And, like a Darian Mensah, if you will, right? And then you've got this from David Pollack. Now, I have feelings on David Pollack as a college football insider, but I'm only bringing this up because it illustrates my point. Here's David Pollack talking about NC State.
That has won 10 games one time in school history. That was in 2002 when they went 11-3. Like Phillip Rivers is in the 10-win club, and he's just been sitting there waiting there for 24 years, and nobody's joined him. It's changing this year, baby. I love the schedule. I love CJ Bailey returning. He's got some big gifts. He's still got to work on consistency, but that is a big, strong sucker. 31 total touchdowns last year, almost 2 years as a starting experience. The schedule creates a real opening for NC State to get to 10 wins. They avoid Clemson, Miami, SMU, Georgia Tech, and Notre Dame. The Wolfpack also won 4 of its last 5 games last season and a big bowl victory. The defense finished good last year. This is year 2 under DJ Elliott, but the late season improvements got to give you some hope. I think the Wolfpack sit to be in a great spot, and I think CJ Bailey rolls up to Phillip Rivers at the bar and says, "Holla, man, I'm in your club."
That's a lot. That's a lot of praise coming from David. And again, I bring this up to illustrate and continue to crystallize my point around the conversation around NC State. If you've been here as long as we have been here, if you are a longtime NC State fan, you see these things and you immediately go, please stop. Do not discuss us like this. If you're an NC State fan, too bad, guys. The best thing you got going for you, if you wanted to counter all this, is the predicted order of finish where they have them in 7th. And yes, I saw this from Lake. Love whoever voted for Stanford. I'm with you on that. And that you're more surprised. You thought it was egregious that 3 people were voting FSU number 1 in the preseason poll. Totally agree with you on that as well. But that's where things are. I will remind you that last year, the predicted order of finish for the ACC was Clemson 1, Miami 2, SMU 3, Georgia Tech 4, Louisville 5, and then Duke 6th. Did we get any of that? No. In fact, Virginia was picked to finish 14th last year. Those were your 2 participants in the ACC championship. So just something to keep in mind. 1, NC State is on that Summer Jam screen being discussed. 2, look at these rankings and just take them for what they're worth. Not much. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, Extra Points is the newsletter, a very valuable resource for this podcast. He is Matt Brown. Matt, what's going on, man? Welcome back from vacation. I have lots of questions for you.
Thanks. I will do my very best to answer them, although I have to admit my mind has been wandering a little bit after you introduced the concept of vodka slushies to me. I've been that I'm still like, I think I got to get one of those before I have to do more CSC stuff.
So I forgot that you're on a journey.
Yes, I am on the journey as a 39-year-old that almost everybody else in society figured out when they were like 19, which is, how do I drink? So there's just a lot of really core experiences that other state university graduates got that I'm getting way late. Thankfully, my liver has, I think, as the
it's
time
a good
to catch
shape.
up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's a good shape. It's kind of like when I started taking up running. in my 30s. I was like, man, these knees are fine. They've barely been used. Little did I know, my left knee has never been the same, and that's why I'm not running as much as I used to, and that's why I'm getting chunkier. But it is what it is. So yeah, you were on this journey. There's a place in Wrightsville called Jimmy's. Okay, we did a podcast there like last summer, the summer before that. And I believe they're like the #1 mover of Deep Eddy vodka in the country, if not the East Coast. And these slushies, dude, you won't remember. You just won't remember. You want to forget something? Like, remember, what is it? What's the Jim Carrey movie with Kate Winslet? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? Right?
Sure. I like to forget the last 20 minutes of that movie.
Yeah. Well, there
sure.
you go.
Okay. This,
one of those
this is where
drink a slushie, you'll be good to go. You forget it.
This is perfect, right? Because the things we have in Chicago to help you forget those things, they mostly taste like the mixture of like automotive lubricant and grapefruit.
Well,
which is not ideal.
You said Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's your problem.
Yeah.
You're drinking too much of this. You're drinking too much Malort, my dude. Don't do that.
Dude, the amount of too much Malort is literally any quantity greater than 0. What you were just holding in your hand is more than the Surgeon General recommends for lifetime consumption.
Next time you come through, I even have barrel-aged Malort. If you really want to get crazy.
That's a war crime. But of course, next time I see you, I'll have some.
But I feel like there's a lot of administrators and boosters in Chapel Hill that would chug Malort right now just to put up with what's going on there. So the reason why I brought you on, to get down to the nuts and bolts of this, we've got Michael Lombardi, general manager at North Carolina. He's the highest paid general manager in college football. I think 1.5 million is what he's getting. Yep. He got put on paid administrative leave, which was coming from the university. Initially, the report was over an HR complaint. Okay, fine. They can't talk about these things. However, our friends at The Athletic, including Brendan Marks, had this paragraph in their updated story over at The Athletic. UNC football has also been approached by the College Sports Commission about a potential investigation, according to 2 people briefed on the matter, but not authorized to discuss it publicly. With Lombardi's actions believed to be of interest, the CSC is a year-old enforcement body that looks into potential violations of name, image, and likeness and revenue-sharing rules and approves third-party deals with athletes. So this is kind of like a 2-pronged question. The first one is, what actual enforcement can they have in an era where I feel like there aren't any real rules? There's all sorts of ways to get around these things. So what exactly would the CSC be looking into, if we could speculate, with Michael Lombardi potentially? Why would they ask Carolina some questions?
Well, the potential scope here is pretty large. The CSC has sent letters of inquiry to the best of my knowledge, a handful of Power 4 institutions. Nebraska was one of them. I believe there's been a few other in the ACC, and a lot of them end up being less than parking tickets, right? If you are as an athlete and you do a deal greater than, I think, $600 right now, depending on where the rule is at the moment, you're supposed to have a deal submitted to this clearinghouse where it is approved or sent back for review or outright denied. And you've had some athletes in some schools that fill out the paperwork incorrectly, and you might get a letter back and it means something very little. It could also mean that you are flagrantly disregarding the salary cap rules and essentially laundering money through boosters or through a collective or somebody else against the terms of the House settlement, which is essentially how everybody in college football right now has a roster, football roster of more than $22 million, which should be impossible with the cap of what you're doing here for men's and women's basketball. The interesting question you raised here, though, is about, well, what authority do they have?
Right.
Paper. What they could do if a school or athletes were habitually breaking these rules and not fixing them when they're flagged, is that they could flag athletes ineligible, and then therefore Carolina could be docked games for playing ineligible athletes. In practice, we've had this for a year, and there hasn't been any actual meaningful enforcement mechanism because the schools have signaled, if you do this to us, we will sue. And we will probably win. And that, which is the entire reason you've been hearing about the Protect College Sports Act and Jim Phillips and Greg Sankey and everybody begging Capitol Hill and the U.S. Senate to give the NCAA antitrust protection to enforce these kinds of rules. Okay. I think it's very interesting that this particular tidbit kind of came out right as Lombardi is getting his HR or is getting his leave of absence, this could be the kind of thing that you might want to leak if you're trying to give yourself wiggle room to let somebody go for cause, even if it actually isn't that big of a deal, or because you don't like Michael Lombardi, which, as you were saying beforehand, I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school. This is not the most popular guy in the industry, and I'm guessing not the most popular guy on campus.
No, well, clearly not. I mean, Pat Welter over at WRL had an entire, expose on player parents outright saying they don't like this guy. We talked to Andrew Jones on Monday about this when the news was breaking, and he was kind of taken aback by the almost gleeful nature that he saw on social media from both NFL people who have crossed paths with him and obviously people within college football. I've been trying to stress this to Carolina fans all last year, where it's like, I get it. You want to believe, you want to buy in. You don't want to hear it from some quote unquote state guys, because I graduated from NC State, but it's like, I'm simply telling you what his reputation is. It's not good. And I'm glad you brought up the calculated nature of dropping something on a Monday as opposed to a typical Friday news dump. The wheels start to turn with the CSC in that, as that's why I wanted to ask you that question. What exactly is the enforcement mechanism here around the CSC? Because I'm having visions of the first go round with Butch Davis and who's getting on a bus and who's not getting on a bus ahead of their game against LSU so many years ago down in Atlanta. And as you're explaining this to me, I'm thinking, are we going to have a who's getting on the plane to Ireland and who's not getting on the plane for Ireland ahead of their week 0 game against TCU, right? So we know more now. So to your point, they would sue to make sure that this doesn't happen, and they know these types of things. But the CSC being involved, it's kind of like, you want us to know that for reasons.
That is my takeaway from this too. It would, I don't want to say it's impossible, but I think it would be surprising if we had a who's getting on the plane, who's not kind of situation. We haven't had that in college football yet. There have been more high profile players, more high profile programs that have been tied to CSC enforcement. It might be interesting to see to what extent Carolina is willing to kind of really go to the mattresses over protecting, a third string tight end out of legal principle over this sort of thing. But again, we're just speculating because we don't know the specifics. But if you were trying to build a case internally and externally to let this guy go, especially, even after last year when it was the highest paid GM in college football, I want to say by about $600,000, and did a terrible job. And has people gunning for him in the NFL media, in college football media, and in media generally, because Lombardi worked for the Ringer. He's been around other places and made lots and lots of enemies. I'm not surprised that this is playing out in this particular way. The timing slightly unusual, but the death by 1,000 leaks, I'm not shocked by that.
Fair enough. Now, you say this is something that, because I had jotted this down, this seems rare and impressive to get the CSC involved, especially in this era where it seems like everything is legal, right? And the threat of a lawsuit is what keeps things from happening. I mean, we do have the Cody Campbells of the world who will absolutely go to bat with the money. So is it a wrong characterization to say that this is both rare and impressive that you can draw the attention of the College Sports Commission over your NIL dealings?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's rare.
Okay.
It is impressive that if you're attracting attention from the CSC and you're not really well known for throwing around insane amounts of money and also bad, that it would be the equivalent of getting nailed by the NCAA for bag manning when you signed the 56th ranked recruiting class. Like, have some professional pride in your team.
Again, right? Time is a flat circle, Matt. I mean, people were making these jokes back in the Butch Davis era where you had John Blake on staff who had his reputation at the time, and you still managed to go 4-8 and lose to NC State. So what exactly are we paying for here? So yes, that's probably the more impressive / embarrassing aspect of it all.
Yeah, I will say in defense of UNC, which is not something I am prone to do here on the air. Okay, we don't know anything beyond the CSC has communicated about a potential investigation. There are other schools that have had that, where that is technically true, and it's the equivalent of a parking ticket. Okay, and it gets resolved, and it's not really a big thing. What we know is you have attracted the attention of the cops Were you going 67 and a 65, or were you like the world's dumbest cheater? We don't know. Okay. We have a bunch of other context about the Lombardi era, which would make us not give this fella the benefit of the doubt. But we don't know.
No, we're not doing the benefit of the doubt here. Not so much. All right. A couple other things that are going on in the world of college sports. I feel like they're all tied together towards one end goal, and that is collective bargaining. Yep. So Stanford's in the news. The same Stanford that got one first place vote to win the ACC. So
in the ACC, sure. Noted ACC historical power, Stanford.
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. It's the power Andrew Luck, I'm convinced. So they're not, are they unionizing or not? I guess what I'm asking is, what is Stanford doing that is similar or different than what Northwestern did, almost a decade ago now? That eventually saw no movement whatsoever.
Yeah, boy, we are old.
We are old. Was that really that was back in 2016, was it not?
That was maybe even earlier. I that was early in my career. I remember covering that from DC for SB Nation. They are different, and I think this distinction is important.
Okay,
Stanford football players have been the first group to sign and charter an individual chapter of the College Football Players Association. That is one of the proto-union groups that's trying to circulate around college athletics. You guys might have heard of athletes.org, which is another. You have some that are specific to college basketball, some that are specific to women's sports. I have been down this road covering the CFPA before. They thought that they had one at Penn State before it fell apart at the last second. They've been close at a couple other places, and then they fell apart because of concern about pushback from coaches or from boosters or other places. You have one at Stanford, but they are not calling it a union right now. I believe the specific term that they're calling it is a fraternity.
Okay.
And the stated intent is we're going to wait until we have established chapters elsewhere in the ACC, and then we're going to file the paperwork to try to become a union and bargain with the ACC rather than with the individual institution. At Northwestern, Kane Coulter and friends filed paperwork to be named employees of Northwestern and bargain specifically with Northwestern. The timing of this is also kind of challenging here, and part of the reason they're not pulling the trigger on unionization now, right this second, is because of who the president is and because of who's in charge of the National Labor Relations Board. And everybody involved in the college sports unionization effort, whether it's the folks at Dartmouth basketball or USC football or elsewhere, have said we're going to wait until Republicans don't control the levers of organized labor recognition in this country, because we don't want negative precedent. So I would look at this as we are extremely early now in the next era of trying to create athlete organized entities to collectively bargain with. We are closer now than we were a week ago, but we're not close yet.
We're not only closer, but even the conversation around this has changed in the last 10 years, which is a long time. When Northwestern wanted to do this, I mean, it was squashed pretty quick, even though it did get a lot of notoriety. But you're not really seeing much pushback on this, especially when you consider that now in this calendar year alone, we've had 2 high-profile lawsuits from a team to a set of players, right? So locally, Duke was understandably upset that Darian Mensah, late in the process, backed out of his deal and went to Miami. We had talked to David McKenzie about this. He's like our in-house OG lawyer on these matters, on these contract matters. And it wasn't so much trying to keep Mensah in Durham. It was more so about, hey, man, we got contracts and we need to have this stuff covered and get some of this stuff back, because that's money that we can then put towards another player, potentially your replacement. And now we're seeing this at Ole Miss over the fallout of Lane Kiffin going to LSU and breach of contract and things like that. These are all like in the real world, in the NFL, the NHL, you get arbitration, there's clauses, all that stuff is collectively bargained. And as much as Jim Phillips and others are kind of hanging their hopes on Capitol Hill, I think you and I have been doing this long enough, and you've been in the weeds. They're not going to save you. You're going to have to be the one that figures this out yourself. And I just feel like we're speed running to some sort of collectively bargained deal between players associations and these universities, because this all feels, buzzword, unsustainable going forward.
Yeah, I understand that. I also understand why Phillips and maybe others in his position are speed running Capitol Hill and hoping for a miracle.
Yeah.
Seems way less likely now than it did even a month ago when it wasn't terribly likely then.
Mhm.
I think it's important to remember some context here too, though, right? Stanford is a private university, and it's in California, which is one of the more labor friendly places. And I wouldn't necessarily categorize Stanford alumni as as especially tight with organized labor at this point, but this is the Elon Musks of the world notwithstanding, probably a more progressive campus than a lot within the ACC footprint. Northwestern, also a private institution. Part of the reason that our effort was not legally successful was the concern over how could you have a conference function with one private school with a union and a bunch of public institutions. As I'm sure you're aware, and I'm sure many of your listeners are aware, one of the challenges with the collective bargaining world is that many states in this country, particularly in the South and in the Intermountain West, expressly prohibit public employees from engaging in collective bargaining. There's some really anti-union laws in places like Utah and South Carolina and Mississippi. Yeah,
North Carolina's also got some funky unionization rules. So
sure, which is one of the things that complicates this. So you're not seeing as much pushback at Stanford. I think if the next branch of this happened at ECU, for example, I do think that you would see some pushback, if from nothing else, from lawmakers or from more elite local institutions pushing back on this. If this happened at Clemson, they'd send in the Pinkertons. Like I'm sure that there would be some significant controversy around this, right? A lot has changed since Northwestern. The idea of athletes getting direct compensation from their institutions back in 2012, 13, 14, 15, when all this was happening, that was really controversial. You could be a median sports writer in good standing and think Northwestern's over their skis, especially because they sucked back then.
Yeah.
Now that is unquestionably the majority opinion. You have some people that are still like, we should get rid of NIL completely, but that's not where almost anybody is at this point. Whether we should create a CBA and bargain exactly the same way the NFL and the NBA are, fans, and I think sports writers and radio hosts and people in our world, I think we're there, but not so much, I think, the rest of the country necessarily, because unlike the NFL, creating a union and a union-like environment here in college sports is going to require some different structures and require a lot of the legal framework that we've created for college athletics, a lot of it which is based on a lie, to get rewritten in a way that we don't have to do with the NFL.
Two things before we let Matt Brown go. Extra Points is the newsletter. Highly recommend it if you're interested in the business of college sports. Also, if you're interested in video games, because he has his own video games too. Two follow-up things. One is related to the Big 12 Monster Energy deal and whether it was a lot of money or a little bit of money. Do you want to reassess your view on that, given the news of this week where Notre Dame's getting its own patch that eclipses what the entire Big 12 is getting? And I believe Ohio State is also doing something similar with a patch too.
Pretty close. I'm not shocked by that at all. So a couple of things I think are important for people to remember. The Big 12 Monster deal is in addition to any other deal that Big 12 institutions want to negotiate, right?
So
Kansas,
it's not exclusive.
It's not exclusive. It's not entirely apples to apples. Kansas has already signed up a patch agreement where they're getting 7 figures from some cryptocurrency. Oklahoma State has one with the tribal gaming reservation, tribal gaming association. BYU has one with the pretend real estate software company. Blah blah blah. So
I hope Kansas got their money up front from the crypto.
Well, there's a reason they're not releasing the whole contract via open records. Let's just put it that way, right? So it's not 1-to-1. But I think what's important for people to understand about patches, particularly locally, right, is that for the overwhelming majority of schools in college athletics, whether you're NC State, whether you're App State, ECU, High Point, whatever, your highest value is going to come from a local or regional brand that's trying to reach businesses or reach consumers within that specific geography, because you don't have massive amounts of scale to justify something a national kind of brand. There's really only about 6, 7, 8 brands in college athletics that I think are truly national or potentially global. And Ohio State and Notre Dame are 2 of those.
Those are right.
If and when Texas decides to do this, they will be paid somewhere in that ballpark, potentially more, but somewhere between $14 and $21 million, right? If Alabama decides to do this, it might be a little bit less, but it will, in that threshold. And potentially one of the LA schools would get more money than you might think, given a potential global reach with the right partner. There's nobody in the Big 12 that's anywhere close to that, with the exception of BYU. Who already signed a deal, and they have their own reasons for not necessarily wanting to do the same thing that Notre Dame is doing. So it would make sense. Like, I think if we're looking even from a ratings perspective, would you rather have one Ohio State or everybody in the Big 12? I think you'd rather have the Ohio State.
I'm going to take Ohio State.
Right. And this isn't me trying to cast aspersions on Oklahoma State or anything. I think it's just the reality. You're mostly regional state schools or regional private schools in lower population parts of the country. You're not signing 5-star players with the exception of Texas Tech right now. And you're not competing for national championships in football.
All right. I enjoyed this piece, and we'll tie it back to North Carolina. This was fans who went missing, season-long average of announced attendance that never scanned into the stadium, 2025 season. As you know, there's announced attendance, and then there's actual butts in seats. And obviously, television doesn't lie sometimes. The social media in the age of AI, I still believe some of these crowd shots that I see. This was, again, last year. Zoom and enhance, and I see that North Carolina is right there on the average line of 35%. That's 35% of fans not showing up. 35% of an announced attendance, that's 35% that didn't actually have their ticket scanned. That's how I read it. Given what we know about all things going on with North Carolina right now, would you expect that number to be higher in 2026? Would you like to make a bet for Barrow Lake Malort?
That is a great question. And I think I would go slightly higher.
Okay.
My theory, I have to dig into the data, because I must confess, this story was published while I was on vacation.
While you're on vacation. No, David
Cavucci and Greg Chick.
Your FOIA compadre over there who loves to do stuff. We've had him on the show. He's a great dude.
Yeah, they're both great. I have a lot of this data myself. We've talked about this. Definitely co-sign the story itself. My suspicion is that the no-show rate, or the gap between scans and announced attendance the first 3 weeks of the season, I would think would be pretty low. And then as things went on, I think that gap gets larger. There are lying reasons to use other metrics, like when you report to the NCAA. Like if you sold the season ticket and you've already gotten the money for it, I understand where you're like, yeah, we report that as a ticket sold. Or if you've given tickets away to the Boys and Girls Club and maybe they don't get beeped in, but they were still distributed, that I get. But this is not uncommon, and for schools that are trying not to announce that they're at third capacity, you're gonna see this sort of thing. What will be wild is if you do this for basketball, because even some blue blood, really good programs are I think would shock people about the 35, 40, sometimes more % gap between announced attendance and who shows up in November.
Even at places like Cameron Indoor, if you're going on a sleepy December while students are gone for winter break, and it's a non-conference opponent, Cameron Indoor can get pretty light and thin and crowd and whatnot, but they're still going to have a sellout, obviously, because it's Duke, it's Cameron, it is what it is. Yep. Matt Brown, Extra Points is a newsletter. Highly recommend if you're interested in the business of college sports. Hey, man, we appreciate it. Welcome back from vacation. I just threw a bunch of stuff at you.
You got it. Thanks for having me, man. Take care.
Take it easy, man.
Housekeeping.
Thanks to Matt for joining us here on the podcast. Housekeeping. It is brought to you by our friends at Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Yes, to T's point, NC State is at 26%. Yeah, again, this is an issue that everybody deals with in college. I was just making the joke that if they're at 35% last year and we saw how those crowds looked like at the end of the year, it's already not off to a great start in Chapel Hill. I'll be curious to see what that number is when 2026 comes around. But this is true and valid of just about every college football program. Even the Ohio States of the world do deal with this to a certain extent. Again, Enovana bringing you housekeeping. Check them out online, enovana.com. Couple of housekeeping items. The Secret Stash is up and running. Secret Stash is always there. We might have pop-up shops. We have our friends at Breaking Tea that help us out. Breaking Tees dropping new stuff all the time. So highly recommend you click on our referral link in the podcast and YouTube description. But Mikey P's working on all sorts of wild stuff on the Secret Stash, including our college collection. So we'll let you put 2 and 2 together on that one. Just go to the OG.shop. Again, that's the OG.shop. New hoodies, new hats. We got OG Lime hats that look really, really slick. So highly recommend that. We also got the new OG branded Canes inspired hat as well. So that's all at the OG.shop. Again, that's the OG.shop. May I remind you, speaking of OG Light and OG Lime, that the canning run is next week. So I believe August 6th, our friends at Bond Brothers will be canning OG Light and OG Lime. We've been out of cans for a hot minute now. In fact, I was at Longleaf Swine for lunch today, which I'll get to in a second, and they've been out of OG Light for a while now. But next canning run is next week. So all your usual spots should be getting shipments of OG Light and OG Lime just in time for the start of the college football season. So I'm very, very excited about that. And then, of course, we'll be out and about next week at Wyndham for the Pro-Am. We'll be doing our show on the road, all part of our like August or out and about, the OG summer tour. We got Mount Rushmores. We got Wyndham next week. We'll be up to Danville the following week. We'll be doing a lot of fun stuff. So be on the lookout for more information. And if you happen to be out at the Wyndham, come say hello. Who knows? Maybe a Jimmy Buffett margarita is in it for you. I have no idea. I can't make any promises. Now, speaking of OG Light, as I mentioned, Longleaf Swine will get the re-up once those are back in cans. I was actually at Longleaf Swine earlier today for lunch, catching up with an old friend. They had a pork belly BLT, like house smoked pork belly BLT. It was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But he was like, what should I get here? I'm like, yeah, barbecue, but try the burger if you've not had the burger yet. He was like, dude, you weren't kidding. Yes, the burger's phenomenal. And they got burger nights, Thursday nights, steak fritz night, which I highly recommend if you haven't done that yet. So check out longleafswine.com. And speaking of Mount Rushmore season, our friends at Color Graphics will bring that to you with our Mount Rushmore season in August. Do you need a car wrap? Do you need a banner? Do you need anything that requires marketing and having your logos all over it? Color Graphic can help you out. Just hit them up, sales@colorgraphic.com. Again, that's sales@colorgraphic.com. You are running out of time to get our ice cream flavor, by the way. It is July 29th. You have until the 31st to go get the salted peanut butter fudge, the AKA OG peanut butter cup. Try it. Trust me, you'll like it. I have not heard a negative review yet. In fact, I've been told it pairs well with other flavors. So just something to keep in mind. Maybe experiment. However you want to get down to Two Roosters, you do you. I just highly recommend our flavor. So thanks to everybody who voted for the flavor to be brought back as part of their fan favorite series throughout the month of July. The month of July is coming to a close this week. So you have until Friday. Take advantage of it. Head on over to Two Roosters and get our ice cream. And of course, our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority, you can bundle and save with bugsbite.com. Outside of your house, inside of your house, the total home subscription package takes care of it all for one low monthly fee. So if you're looking at mosquito treatments, termite protection, quarterly treatments, and saving money in the process with one fee, the subscription, you cannot go wrong. So check them out, bugsbite.com, and you can ask about this total home protection plan, which, trust me, you'll save money in the long run in terms of monthly payments for all these treatments. And then, of course, the big one, protecting your home so you're not dealing with larger issues down the line. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from WFNZ, Locked On Hornets podcast, he is Walker Mehl. Walker, I have exciting news for you.
Oh, I can't wait. Let's hear it. What you got?
So I had to duck into Target yesterday by my house, and as I'm walking, because I'm the weirdo, I always drop by the Nintendo area just to see if they've got anything on sale. I mean, I don't know. They might have Street Fighter 2 on clearance. I got no idea, right?
They might.
But as I'm walking by the video game section and transitioning over to the back to school area, they've got this kiosk, and it's got Hornets starter gear on display in the middle of Raleigh. Are you telling me Hornets fever hasn't taken over? We got Hornets gear in a Raleigh Target, Walker. Growth.
I love it. I mean, what's funny is I think it was it Chris Long who said this? Maybe even JJ Watt. It was one big, white, strong defensive end, one of those guys. And what they were saying, one of those guys. And what they were saying was how the Hornets were everybody's second favorite team all across America, that they had their favorite local team and that everyone's second favorite team, it was the Charlotte Hornets. And of course, locally, we would take it. Yeah, everybody loved us, man. We were fun. We weren't too threatening to your local favorite team. Like we'd get to a second playoff round or whatever, but we were never going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, quite literally. Yeah, Raleigh, we could become Raleigh's second favorite team. I'm here for it.
The funny thing about Hornets gear is, especially if you're a dude of a certain age, the colorways were amazing back in the 90s. And it's fairly obvious that all of these starter jackets are coming back into fashion to the point where they're selling them at Target. And also next to the Hornets, I saw a big, shiny, black and teal and silver Carolina Panthers starter jacket. It was $100 some odd. It was a little too pricey for me.
Yeah.
But I could see it. I could see it. Look good. Also, the vibes around the Panthers were very, very good until last week. And that's honestly why we're checking in today. The Carolina Panthers had their first padded practice yesterday. As of this conversation, I believe they're on the field now, getting ready for their second day. I don't know. I might just pull up some live tweets from Vashti and Sheena just to see what people are saying, right?
Because Charlotte radio, baby. This is what we do.
Oh my goodness. Please rip off the Levitard show and use the current affairs stinger. The Jonathon Brooks carried the ball for 10 yards.
You know what I tried to do? I tried the Arby's spoof. We have the tweets is what I tried. It kind of worked. I liked it. I don't feel like, when you think you come up with a good idea and you don't quite get the buy-in from your co-host and your producer. I liked it. I think that there was enough play from listenership, but I don't think I got everybody else to buy in. So it was a short-lived. We have the tweets.
Walker, I feel your pain, man. Sometimes I thought I had some banger ideas. But if you don't get buy-in from your co-host, it's a very, very hard sell. And there have been some of those times. All right, look, all jokes aside, I think the story so far of Panthers, or the two stories of Panthers camp, are health-related and then also byproduct of health-related, Jonathon Brooks and how he has looked, all things considered. So, I mean, we talked to Julian Council earlier in the week, and I guess the bright side is he's healthy. He looks healthy. He's running the way he's supposed to be running, and now he's out there with padded practice. So here's the question. How is Canales going to handle this, in your opinion, so that he is ready to go week one? It feels like he has to go outside of what he's normally done in the preseason to get Jonathon Brooks ready to go for week one.
Are we already getting to should Dave Canales play the starters conversation? Is it time? Yeah, we're close. In preseason, like play him in preseason. It's almost that time, huh?
It's kind of the story, right? Like you can give me all the Xavier Legette, like he was in bounds for a catch. Okay, cool. Like I love to see that.
That's what it is now, man. Do you know where the sideline is? Jonathan Mingo didn't. We shipped him out. Now we just got to figure it out with Xavier Legette. And he knows just enough.
If you think I'm kidding, I'm not. Alex Nightlow from the Charlotte Observer literally tweeted out yesterday a one-on-one with a CB he couldn't identify. He was in bounds. That's where we're at with Xavier Legette during preseason.
Oh, man, I love this because it's so true. We had a joke on the world-famous text line about, hey, we used to think that XL could be this deep threat as a first-round receiver. Now we're just happy when he knows how to stay in bounds. Now we're just happy when he knows where to line up on the line of scrimmage, which isn't entirely false. How does Dave Canales handle all of this? How does he handle it specifically with Jonathon Brooks? Okay, to me, I think whatever's working right now, you just keep rolling with it. There are a few phases you got to clear with Jonathon Brooks. I think you cleared phase one and nothing happened during the offseason. You got through non-padded practice with no injury for Jonathon Brooks. He looks good. We're getting all caps, shifty tweets from Sheena. All caps, Joe. And look, I don't need a battery in my back to get on the Jonathon Brooks bandwagon. I don't need any convincing whatsoever. I just need a body. Can I get a healthy body? And then if you give me a healthy body out of Jonathon Brooks, I feel pretty good about the impact coming alongside it. There is not another archetype player on this roster, such as what Brooks brings, which is the agility. He can take it to the crib. Like, you got some yak guys in this offense, but they're more power or smooth. T-Mac being the smooth flavor. Jalen Coker and XL, if he can get right, those guys are the power yak guys. Give me somebody a little shifty, forcing some missed tackles, helping you out of the backfield in the passing game. That's what I want from Brooks. But now we got to get through phase 2, Joe, which is get through padded practice, clear and healthy, and we got to get through preseason, and then we got to get to the regular season, right? So we're in phase 2 of all of this. Thumbs up so far. He looks good. We're getting a lot of, I think, genuine comments about how shifty, how explosive Jonathon Brooks looks. Like, Dave is starting to get a little giddy talking about him as well. I'm in, baby. Which it didn't take much anyway, but I'm
going to say, with Dave Canales, it doesn't take much for him to get giddy and sunshiny about these things. Although I was reading the quotes from yesterday's availability, and I guess he wasn't necessarily happy with the energy to start. So it was as critical as Dave Canales can get when
physicality wasn't up to standard.
Yeah, the physicality was not up.
A little soft they were.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I've always wondered how the room takes Dave Canales challenging them, because his demeanor is such that it's like, but you're Mr. Positive all the time. Are you being, it's like when one of my cats tries to be scary, right? It's like, I see what you're doing here, but I can't quite take you seriously. I'm assuming the room responds to Dave Canales and the way that he goes about these things.
It's interesting. Well, look, when he was hired, I mean, we got glowing reviews from people that had played under him in Seattle and that had played for him in Tampa Bay, and how, what was it? What was the word that Russell Okung used? He was some kind of like positive warrior or optimism warrior, whatever the phrase was.
I think optimism warrior was the phrase. Yeah.
Something like that. But as long as we're going with animal comparisons, you say your cat tries to act scary and then you laugh it off. I think maybe more so Dave Canales is like my female golden retriever, who has this really cute, sweet face, doesn't have a scary bone in her body, but she has a surprisingly deep bark. It's almost like a Volkswagen Beetle having the horn of a semi. That's what my female golden retriever's like. I feel like that might be a little like Dave Canales, and people listen to him. Yeah, I think he is positive. That's why it's the classic adage: he who compliments a lot compliments none. When he says something, when he criticizes, we weren't right. Like, we actually got to get right here. If Dave Canales isn't happy with the ability, with the lack of ability that we showed out there, so I think more so he's like the female golden retriever.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, my cat, one of my cats, really wants to hunt birds outside, so goes to the sunroom. And in cats, they do this like ek 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 thing. They try to mimic the sound of a bird, and it sounds nothing like a bird. It's actually pretty damn funny. It's like, you're not fooling anybody. And I've always wondered a little bit of that when you're going through some trials and tribulations. If there are people who go, okay, man, I'm not quite sure I can take it that way. But Chilio floated this out last week with the injuries early on. This actually could be a positive for the Panthers to kind of get you through and not get so down on yourself, because things did not start out the way anybody wanted it to last week. I got to imagine the text line and the callers last week were like, what the fuck? Especially with the way the offseason was going. It was very much a, what the fuck is happening? Literally day one, we got to deal with these issues, which gets to the next part of this in terms of, and I do think we can joke about the preseason stuff and Canales' track record with the preseason. It still bothers me a little bit last year when he said that they had to earn their time on the preseason field. It's like, no, it's the preseason. It's the opposite way around. They have to earn their way off the field until you see what you want. They're back on the field. So those things still kind of hover over it, but I'm looking at Jonathon Brooks, right? I'm also looking at Monroe Freeling, right? Freeling was not supposed to be in this position from the jump. It was a battle that they had been setting up. But that's not the case anymore. They need him to be useful right out of the gate, which that also plays into how are you going to handle these joint practices, which I know coaches value like gold. And then, of course, the preseason where you can actually get some real reps. So I do think we can joke about it, but I do think with those two instances, both Brooks getting him up to speed for week 1 and Freeling's development, you do need to play these guys more than you might have initially thought of.
Yeah, it was interesting because he talked about this, I think it was last week, where he had a comment about the science saying the more reps you get, the less likelihood it is that you get injured once you get to the regular season, which also kind of runs counter to the way that Dave Canales has operated each of the last 2 preseasons. The first preseason, he was almost full Sean McVay. We ain't playing anybody that we value.
Right.
Second preseason, it was more, still not enough to the people's liking, and especially when you get off to an 0-2 start. People hate it if you lose the first 2 games and you don't play the starters. This is when it comes back to bite you. I would expect an increase in playing some of the starters because if there is more science now, although it's kind of weird. I feel like we get different studies on this about whether it is advantageous to play your starters in the preseason or not. It feels like different coaches have their own philosophies on this.
I think it's a case by case basis, which is why in this case, I do think in those 2 guys in particular, you're going to need more reps than not.
Especially with Brooks, man, just get him used to it. Because we got to see
Hasn't
what
played
it looks
football in
like.
2 years.
It's crazy. I think we all kind of ran with the Mike Cade note on his famous notepad. This was Jonathon Brooks' first padded practice in his NFL career.
Yes.
That's wild, man. It's his 3rd year. We got we got what 1-2 years before we got to figure out what to do with him contractually, or either if he's going to be on the team. And it's his first padded practice. It's so funny. We got, I don't even know, did we even get to 30 snaps? I think we got maybe 20 snaps the one time that he was healthy, and he gave us a play, forced a couple missed tackles, turned a 3-yard gain into a first down, and that's all we have. This is it. And now we have some shiftiness in practice, and I'm buying in. I love the talent, but clearly, man, we can joke all we want to. We just got to get healthy. Got to get there somehow, and we got to play football. And preseason is football that I deem worthy enough for Brooks to suit up for, so he can get ready for what it is to play in an NFL regular season.
All right. So what's the one thing coming out of Panthers camp so far that you feel is under discussed? I mean, Brooks is an obvious talking point. The injuries last week, obvious talking point. We can talk Bryce Young until we're blue in the face, and I'm sure we'll be doing that plenty once the regular season starts up. There's really nothing new to say about Bryce Young. We know what this season is really about. But I'm just kind of curious, is there anything behind the scenes that maybe we're not picking up on because we're too busy tweeting about Xavier Legette being in bounds?
Cornerback battle.
Okay.
Cornerback's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
One, Mike Jack's going into a contract year, and he's going to be 30 years old at the end of this season. Mike Jack was fantastic last season. J.C. Horn is the highest paid corner. You could easily argue that Mike Jack had the better year of the 2 corners. It's very different. What's interesting is that quarterbacks came in understanding that J.C. Horn was our number 1 guy. So quarterbacks weren't throwing J.C. Horn's way. He actually had a target per snap basis that was, really low, high, however you want to define it. People kept throwing Mike Jack's way because they didn't want to throw towards JC, and Mike Jack just kept making you pay for it. Like, no, man, I'm actually going to pick this off. I'm going to deflect all these passes. I've got your guy, draped in coverage. It's just not happening. So you have those 2 corners, but really they're not battling against each other. What's interesting is that you drafted Will Lee in the 4th round, who has a lot of talent. He's big. Dan Morgan's got a type. He likes the big physical football players. You can look all across the board. Whoever he goes after in free agency and in the draft, he likes the big, strong dudes. He likes the manly men. Will Lee comes in as this big, strong corner who can play on the outside. They're experimenting with playing JC a little bit more in the slot on the inside. He's big. I think they kind of want to have some looks at blitzing J.C. Horn, roughing dudes up at the line of scrimmage because he's about that smoke, which I love about him.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Willie on the outside, J.C. Horn on the inside, Smith Wade, their Washington State, 5th, 6th round pick from a couple of years ago. He's having a nice camp. They really like his mind. They think he's a good dude, nice character, good ability, but they also like Corey Thornton. Corey Thornton is a guy where it felt like Dave Canales might have started Corey Thornton in the slot at the beginning of last year had he not gotten hurt. And so they went to Smith Wade. This was information I don't think we were privy to until he made some kind of comment like that this offseason. Wait, okay, so you guys really like Corey Thornton. There's just a bunch of flexibility in how you deploy these corners, how you deploy star corners, guys in contract years, rookies, last chance corners and Smith Wade, where this is your last shot to really make an impact. Cornerback battle's kind of interesting to watch.
You got MLS fever tonight. You got the All-Star game tonight.
Much to Willie P's dismay, I do not. I
Oh,
apologize,
man.
Willie. I don't have the fever.
We're coming
It is
off the World Cup, man. You're hosting the
We're-
MLS All-Star game. Come on.
Hey, we're lucky I got into the World Cup, and I did. I did get into the World Cup, and it just happened a little later. I had to get to I think by the time the U.S. played their last game, I was in, so I might have been the problem there. But it was a blast in the World Cup. Tim Ream won the passing challenge last night. Charlotte FC member. Shout out to Tim Ream. That's about all I got.
Tim Ream overcoming a not so great showing in their knockout game.
That's right. Yes, I do know. I know enough to know that it wasn't great. That I saw a lot of Tim Ream slander on my timeline.
It was not good. It was
only to see some praise for the way that he performed in the passing challenge last night in Charlotte.
You know, it's interesting. The reason why I brought this up in a jokey way, and we'll close on this, in that there's so much discussion about a World Cup soccer bump, right? We saw an Olympic hockey bump. Okay. The Stanley Cup ratings were very, very good. Much to the surprise of people because the Carolina Hurricanes were involved. The Vegas Golden Knights were involved, right? But there actually was a legitimate bump from the Olympic hockey, the U.S. winning, to the rest of the NHL, which is rare. Typically, people argue that there is no bump. So at the end of the U.S. knockout game, the Fox announcer, infamously at this point, was like begging people, hey, your soccer journey doesn't have to end here. Okay. Please go watch a football team, right?
Yeah.
And the issue is, and I am curious in Charlotte, because you actually have a team, whether or not people get behind it because, well, it's a local team in Charlotte, so we're going to get behind it. Or do people legitimately enjoy the product? Because the problem with soccer in our country is that we know that MLS is not the best product. The NHL is the best product in hockey, right? The NBA is the best product in basketball. There are European leagues. There's leagues everywhere, but we know the NBA is the best. And in soccer, there are leagues everywhere, but we know that MLS is not the best. So after a couple of years of having it there and the new car shine is off at this point, the new car smell is gone, what is Charlotte FC culture at this point, especially coming off a World Cup?
I think we have good home field advantage. Anybody that plays at Bank of America Stadium, they discuss how raucous the crowd is. I think the people that care about it really care about it. They show up and they're standing up. They're on their feet pretty much the entire time. I do think at the beginning, it was a novelty. At first, we had not had soccer, so everybody's showing up. They want to be a part of the thing. And I will say, excuse me, Charlotte is a sports city that they do put the pressure on you. And if you don't win, we probably aren't going to show up as much. Yeah. We'll give you time, though. I think we're a really fair sports city. We'll give you time. We'll give you time to build this thing up. And then if you don't perform adequately enough, then we're probably just going to be watching on the couch. But then you start winning, we're going to show up. You see this with the Panthers, man.
Oh, yeah,
like Bank of America. And when you are winning, when you give us something to show up for, the fans will show up and then we'll support you. We got your back, but you got to do your part. I think maybe there's a little of that going on with FC. And this isn't to say that Charlotte FC is a terrible soccer team. That's not the case. It's just there was a little bit of an underwhelming finish going into the international break, and you don't have Zaha anymore. And the big star signing in Zaha, it didn't go as well as I think people had hoped for. So I don't know if people are souring on it. I just think if Charlotte FC starts to ramp things back up again, you'll start to see more people go to the stadium, just like with any winning program. But the people that are there really care about it. I think if you want to grab more eyeballs, it's just like anything else, man. Just let's start to ramp this thing back up, because it was kind of underwhelming over the last 2 months heading into the international break.
Well, I'd find it interesting that the again, correct me if I'm wrong. This is why I enjoy talking to you, because you're there. But I feel like the biggest takeaway from the World Cup in relation to anything happening in Charlotte is real grass. That seems to be that seems to be the only real carryover, in that, hey, all these places that hosted the World Cup, they had real grass in these situations. But that runs counter to what David Tepper wants to do with Bank of America Stadium, right?
If-
You
if-
want all those
yeah.
shows. You want Charlotte FC. Obviously, you've got your football games. There's only so much turf can take, especially if you're going to be doing all the shows that David Tepper wants to do in that building.
No, you're right. That's the play. And if you're within 2 or 3 degrees of separation of football, then we're going to make it about football. And that's what people care about. It's having the Carolina Panthers play on natural grass rather than turf. But David Tepper brought music back to the city of Charlotte, and he wants to
He
continue.
didn't bring music back to the city of Charlotte. He actually brought music, period, to Charlotte.
That's right.
I mean,
And not
Charlotte
back-
didn't know what music was until David Tepper took over and started bringing shows there.
We had to have had it in the first place. And so
Mhm.
he didn't resurrect it. I mean, he brought it. He spawned.
It was like
music.
a
That's the first
caveman
word.
with fire. It's like, what is this? It's amazing.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
These sounds make me feel something. What is this? I've never experienced this before.
He is Tom Hanks in Castaway. I have created fire. He's got his shirt off. It was very weird. He's on Mitten Moorhead and he's shouting it to the city. That's exactly what happened when he announced that we were going to turf and that we were bringing music to the city of Charlotte. But when Nick Scorton went down, the very first thing people started to write in is, great, it's turf, which isn't true. The practice fields are grass, which should be noted. So it really was just a football injury because these things happen in this sport.
Yeah, it's a freak thing.
But people are sensitive to this. Like, the players want it. Rob Hunt didn't mince any words when he was asked about it. He was at the microphone at training camp. JJ Jansen talked about it a little bit, speaking with the boys in the morning when they had their camp day, interviewing a bunch of players. Nobody shies away from it, even in the organization. So, yeah, I don't know if Tepper cares. In fact, I guess I kind of figure he doesn't so far, but there's more pressure now than there's been. And anything we can make about that, then, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to make it about playing on natural grass in the NFL rather than playing on turf.
All right, Walker, we appreciate it. WFNZ, Locked on Hornets is the podcast. I see you're working on your lighting setups. I feel you. Like, look, we got the new cameras in the studios, these OBS spots. It's made things a little bit warmer. I've tried to tinker with our lights here. But you got to get the Locked on Hornets neon sign back up and running, dude.
Man, it's out of commission. I hate it. It's just wavy because the lighting isn't working. And my co-host, who is a genius with this stuff, he's trying to help me out as well. But
there's frequency settings you can have on the camera so that it matches up on the.
And that's what I need to do so I can bring people back the Locked on Hornets neon sign. Instead, here, you might like this.
Oh, yeah, because like for us, we had the same issue. I got this I got the tiny tiny board here, the LED board behind me. With the old cameras, it flickered all the time because they just didn't match the frequencies. But with this, I can actually do all that stuff now.
Technology. So I had to find some kind of like
What you
Hornets
got there?
thing, and I've got a Alonzo Mourning, Bill Russell Sports Illustrated cover to put over the glare. You see the glare on the sign now? Oh yeah, that I know you'd like that, man. How excellent is that?
I see that.
It's great stuff.
I see that.
Yeah, I need to put your Bud Light Super Bowl, Panthers beer bottle up there.
Damn right you do. All right, Walker. We'll talk to you later, man.
Thanks, man. Always enjoy it.
I mean, seriously, we start off as radio guys, then you start throwing video things at us, and it's like, wait, how does lighting work? What are we doing here? How do I get this all to work? Hey, you're along for the journey, okay? Speaking of journeys, buying and selling a house can be a journey. As somebody, thankfully, I have not had to do this in a long time, but I do remember, what is it now? 16 years ago, selling a house and then buying a house all around the same time. It's like threading this needle, right? And you need somebody that's there on the journey with you that understands the area. Hometown Realty, cannot recommend them enough. They've been serving the Carolinas for 25 years. It's a commitment to the community, understanding the community. Great place to work. We went to their own like corporate outing out at Drive Shack a while back. And it was just, everybody was having a great time and people were giving speeches. Just a great company. And that kind of carries over into how they're going to help you buy and sell a house. So if you're looking at a bigger house, maybe you're looking at downsizing, all things that need to fit whatever your needs are, Hometown Realty can help you out with that. So hit them up, myhtr.com. Again, that's myhtr.com. If you're looking to sell a house and you got to, upfit it a little bit, make it look good, little extra something here and there. Or as I witnessed in my own neighborhood, somebody bought a big fancy new home. They had no blinds, no shades, no nothing. They're trying to put them up themselves. That never ends well. So you know what you do. you contact our friends at Bloomin' Blinds. They brought you the After Darks throughout the basketball and Stanley Cup final action, and they're going to be back for football season. Week 0, we're back with the After Darks, and Bloomin' Blinds will be there with us. So check them out. BloominBlinds.com. That's BloominIN Blinds.com. 919-980-9815. If you're an OG listener, you call up Bloomin' Blinds. You talk to Chris, you talk to Nico. You're like, hey, I'm an OG listener. 15% off. 15% off blackout shades, automation. You got some pergola that you want to put up. They can do that too. 15% off for OG listeners. All you got to do is mention that you heard about Bloomin' Blinds on the podcast. So hit them up. 919-980-9815. BloominBlinds.com. Big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. Speaking of like buying and selling a house or, hey, refinancing. We're going to catch up with Gordon Miller a little bit later on. Something as simple as a closing, Whitaker and Hamer can help you out with that. You're a small business. You've got some contracts you got to go over. They can help you with that as well. They got offices across North Carolina. So all you need to do is go to wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer. Speaking of expertise, our guy, Chris Brassfield, he's going to help you out as a fractional CFO. If you're like me and Gilio, you're a 2-person LLC. You only have so much bandwidth, right? And sometimes there's a little bit of a you don't know what you don't know type situation. Well, Brassfield does know as it relates to what you need as a fractional CFO, especially if you are in the world of government grants. It's like extra paperwork on top of all the other things you got to worry about. Chris and his crew can help you out. So BrassfieldAccounting.com. Yes, he is in Homer, Alaska. It's 2026. Everything's remote, right? But if you really need to get in front of somebody, they do have an office in the RTP. So contact our guy, Chris Brassfield, BrassfieldAccounting.com. And of course, Matt Davis, State Farm, InsureGarner.com, 919-779-8277. The easy part is just asking Matt about home and auto. Where can I save money? I'm telling you right now, he's going to help you find ways to save money on home and auto. But that's like the immediate thing. What about the future? What are you doing in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? What is your retirement plan? Have you thought about retirement? This is where Matt can guide you. So contact Matt Davis, InsureGarner.com, 919-779-8277. It's never too late to start thinking about future things like retirement, a retirement plan, college, all those things. They're there. They're not going away. So you might as well get on top of it today, and Matt can help you with that. Again, hit up InsureGarner.com. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from On3, Andy Inari is the podcast, as is his role on the Yahoo Sports College Football Inquirer. Andy Staples, you are a very busy man.
Oh, I like having a job. I like being employed. I've been in this industry long enough to know that there are times when you might not be. So if someone wants me to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, no, trust me. I know sometimes you wake up one day and you realize, oh, wait a minute, there's no role for me here anymore. So you got to make do with what you got. Speaking of not having a role right now, he's on paid administrative leave, is Michael Lombardi. We spent a little bit of time talking to Matt Brown of Extra Points earlier in relation to the CSC and the role and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to start this portion of the conversation with you, and it's something that I know you guys brought up on the latest College Football Inquirer. I've been trying to stress this to Carolina fans who don't want to listen. Nobody likes Michael Lombardi. Like, other than Bill Belichick, you're hard-pressed to find anybody who likes Michael Lombardi. So from a national perspective, can you explain to us why there has been such a reaction from both NFL people and college football people, both inside the building and people who cover football, that are, I don't want to say enjoying it, but almost like a "I told you so" about Michael.
They're clearly enjoying it, and I don't know Michael Lombardi, so I don't have a Michael Lombardi story. I know plenty of people who know him.
Yeah,
and remember, he worked in the media for a while too. So like, there's media folks who know him as a GM. There's media folks who know him as a media person. There are NFL people who know him as an NFL guy. There are NFL people who know him as a media person. College people now who know him from those roles. Not a single person says a nice thing. I texted one of my friends who was a former coworker of his and said, you're the only person who said fairly nice things or lukewarm things about Michael Lombardi. And he texted me back, wow, I'm more professional than I thought I was. and then the next text was, this was only a matter of time. But that's what, like, I had an agent text me within minutes of the news breaking.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this guy called my boss and tried to get me fired because I didn't give him one of his players. He didn't get one of my players. Like,
unreal. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it is widespread. I tweeted this on the day. Like, I don't remember a college football breaking news story that was reacted to with this much glee, not by the fans, but by people in the football business. And like, it's fairly universal.
And you and I both know this about the media cycle. And I know you guys brought this up. It shouldn't be lost on anybody that this was dropped on a Monday heading into the beginning of camp for the Tar Heels. Last check, Bill Belichick is supposed to meet with press on Thursday when they open things up. And I know they're going to point to the statement because the statement it's a university statement. It's a university matter. Therefore,
well, football communications is under the university umbrella. It's not even in the athletic department anymore. That got changed last spring.
So they're not going to talk anything. They're not going to talk about it, but people are clearly going to ask questions about it. And it almost feels, when you put this all together, nebulous HR complaint, the CSC thing that's coming out there, and when you start to look at the job that he's doing, this all seems very calculated from the outside. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yes, the Monday morning news dump is really different than the Friday afternoon news dump. It is. They're both strategic in their own way. This was done to get people talking about it.
Yeah.
This was done to send a message. And, I would imagine if you look at the dynamics at North Carolina, they're in the midst of a transition. Steve Newmark is now taking over as the athletic director. Bubba Cunningham is moving into an emeritus role. Steve Newmark was not the AD when they hired Bill Belichick.
Was not, but he did have a role in
was in the mix.
Yeah.
Now, Bubba Cunningham was the AD, but was not the person who hired Bill Belichick. He was running one search, and unbeknownst to him, another search was going on parallel.
Yeah.
Which, as much as I've defended Bubba of, hey, you can say I didn't hire this guy, and you can point at everybody else and say it's their fault. As the AD, you should know when something like that's happening. You shouldn't be surprised by that. It shouldn't be when you're trying to hire John Sumrall and John Sumrall and his agent go, there's another search going on, right? And to quote Shark Tank, and with that, I'm out.
All right, so hold up a second, because this is actually a good point here to make this the Bill Belichick portion of the conversation. Okay, as much as this is about Lombardi and his own actions, this is
about Belichick, and that's why it. Yeah. So it popped. The Lombardi story popped because people in football, and apparently people in the media who worked with him too, don't like Michael Lombardi. In one way, that's why it popped. But the reason it resonated, the reason when I screenshotted the email and tweeted it out, the reason it now has 2.6 million views, that tweet,
right,
is because it's a Bill Belichick story. Ultimately,
first hire, he made Michael Lombardi the highest paid general manager. He's built his entire reputation on knowing the talent evaluation better than you. This is something that we talked about when he got
when clearly he doesn't know it better than anybody.
Well, when he got the job, it was almost like I felt like I was taking crazy pills, in that evaluating NFL talent when you're drafting guys is different than evaluating high school players, in that when you're looking at your available draft pool, they're still NFL players at the end of the day. They might not be.
Right. And that's what I keep saying.
Yeah, they might not be Hall of Fame players.
Do you know what a fifth round draft pick is? A former 4-star who was awesome in college.
Right. And then we saw this point in October. If Lombardi's going to be your front-facing person, your communicator, and this is something that we talked about with Andrew Jones on Monday, you have to be better at that job if we know that Belichick is not good at that job. Like Joe and I talked to Steve Newmark at ACC Kickoff, 2 weeks ago, and to Giglio's credit, got on Newmark about like, hey, being a college football coach requires more than the gruff non-answers that he likes to give. You have to give your fans more.
There needs to be a little salesmanship. I mean, if you look, even Kirby Smart embraces the salesmanship of the job, and he doesn't need, like, Georgia doesn't need sales.
So if he's not,
But he understands it's part of the job.
Part of the job. So if he's not going to be the guy who does that, right? You need your front-facing person to be better at it, which is what Michael Lombardi was supposed to be in some form or fashion. But then you evaluate his job at doing that, not very good. And then more importantly, we get back into the drafting, building up of talent. Back in October, I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was this letter that Lombardi had sent, I guess, from his typewriter, essentially trying to mansplain, Lombardi-splain how college works to a bunch of boosters who've been around Mac Brown for a long time, who really knows the game and knows how to sell and things like that. So you get to the talent evaluation of it all. He's not doing his job, therefore Belichick's not doing his job, which gets to Belichick's job. The ACC,
right, and like at some point,
yeah,
this before the 2025 season, like when they first got the job, and I realized this was very early, but at some point somebody should have tapped somebody on the shoulder and said, "Hey, we seem to be competing against schools in the American for transfers. Why?"
Right.
Why is that? Why are we not competing against Big Ten and SEC and ACC schools for transfers? Because that's who we've got to play against.
Mm-hmm. And now they've gone youth movement, right? With this idea that they're going to build a foundation. And they keep talking about, this was the talking point coming out of ACC kickoff. And again, this is where I ask the national guy to explain things to people sometimes, so I don't feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It's hard. I'm hard pressed to buy the idea that he needs quote unquote time, or he got there too late when Jake Dickert at Wake Forest got there, I think a week later.
Jake Dickert was hired, 10 days, 11 days later?
Like that. They won 9 games and had a Mayo Bowl win over an SEC team, okay, and beat Carolina along the way. And then their quarterback.
Because Jake Dickert understands how to build a roster. He knows what he's looking for.
So it doesn't seem like any of those lessons were learned, because last check, like if you guys are looking at things and you're talking to other people within the football community, you're supposed to be competing with top level teams for their top level portal talent. And they don't seem to be even doing that well. So I look at this, and I look at 15th in the preseason poll from the ACC media. I would feel like that's being too kind at this point to have them 15th, because I don't know if they've got the talent to compete with a schedule that's more difficult with some road.
They might be better than 15th, but does it really matter? I mean, you fired a guy for going 6-6. Like if you're 11th or 12th or 15th, or who cares? You've still failed. So like that's the issue. I don't understand the team building strategy. And I know, I had some North Carolina fans get mad at me for what I said in one of the On3 videos about, I don't think Bill Belichick's trying that hard. He's not trying that hard.
I would agree.
Period.
I would agree with you on that too. Now, so let's play this out. I think you and I are on the same page that this season's not going to be good enough. And they're probably going to have to move on from Bill Belichick. I do credit Bobby Petrino for having an eye on jobs where he could potentially take over as an interim.
Be the interim. This would be the third in a row, by the way.
Yeah, Bobby's like, I see my next.
He didn't get the interim at Texas A&M though.
And hey, look, one thing that I know everybody's made the same joke about is that there's an HR complaint coming out of a university football program that has Bobby Petrino on staff, and it's not Bobby Petrino. People are like, wow, that's an upset, all things considered, right? So let's play this out. They move on from Bill Belichick. I want to go back to what you said about Summerall. Are you saying that Bubba had Summerall ready to go? Is that what you're telling me?
He was very serious about taking the job. He was if there's no simultaneous Bill Belichick search going on, he absolutely would have considered it. As soon as they found out that the shenanigans are going on, they're like, no, I can just stay at Tulane. Yeah. There will be SEC jobs at the end of the rainbow. It'll be okay. But I think, there's an alternate history. Yeah. If there's no parallel Belichick search, Summerall takes North Carolina, probably brings Darian Mensah with him to North Carolina, which is a crazy alternate history considering Mensah ended up playing 8 miles away.
Yes.
But there's absolutely, would they go 4-8 in year one under John Summerall? No, they wouldn't have.
No,
we know that.
No, they would look like a competent football program. So to that end, because of the shenanigans that you're referencing, that's John Pryor, the head of the BOT, getting, I don't know who was was it Marco Rubio that got involved with this thing too? If I remember the Atlantic story,
which is Marco Rubio, Florida fan,
right?
Probably happy Summerall's in Gainesville now. So
maybe that's the case. And I'm sure Mario Cristobal was happy about this too, because that all ends up with Darian Mensah going down to Miami and Manny Diaz doing Miami yet another favor in the grand scheme of things. So the reason why,
not willingly though.
I know. Look, I've always maintained that some of the performance initiative, success initiative from the ACC, where Miami gets to keep all that college football playoff money, Manny Diaz should get a cut of that. He should get a percentage.
I know this is not what we're talking about, but I seriously thought about this a lot. If Manny had gotten the resources that Mario has gotten in Miami,
right?
Because if you look at, I would argue Duke has been very good in the NIL era.
Yes,
at supporting its coach, whether it was Elko or Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what he's doing with support.
Yeah.
Imagine he had the mega support that Miami decided to flip on once they hired Mario, and maybe that doesn't happen if they don't hire Mario. That was part of the deal. But I would argue that Manny probably would have been pretty successfl with that level of support at Miami.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. So I bring up the Summerall thing to go back to that real quick.
Yeah.
Push this forward. Let's play this out. They move on from Bill Belichick. I have received several texts from people that say this is going to set UNC back 10 years, that sort of stuff. Or like, who's going to take that job after everything that occurred? As you mentioned, there was that sideshow with Pryor and things like that. Those people are no longer there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it going to take for Carolina to get a coach like a Summerall to take that job? Because Carolina's always viewed as a job that you can potentially do something with, and they always make the poor decision, unfortunately. But let's say they get these things right and they identify the guy that they actually want. Would somebody like a Summerall, a young up-and-coming coach the SEC might have eyes on in the future, take a Carolina job after all that just played out?
Yes, absolutely. And especially if you look at what is going to happen this offseason, like what this coaching carousel cycle is going to look like. Now, let's cast aside the idea of any big-time coach going to the NFL, because that could open up a really good job if that happened. But that's a different time frame, too. Last year, LSU was open. Auburn was open. Florida was open. There's big jobs open. The year before, they weren't. Like the year when North Carolina was open, it was maybe the best job of the cycle.
I would agree.
I think only 3 power conference jobs opened that cycle. And this one, you have some potentially big jobs. Like if Lincoln Riley doesn't get it done at USC, and by doesn't get it done, it might mean not make the playoff. Like that, their standard is going to be pretty high.
Yeah. But
they might have to do something. But he also might just make the playoff. Like they have a really good team coming back. Or they might be good enough that he's shows the progress that he needs to show. But that would be a huge job if USC opened. But that's I don't think that's that's maybe a 50-50, but maybe even less than that. Like the standard's high, but they also are good. Florida State, I'm assuming, is going to open. So that's a big job. That's a good job. But is it as good as North Carolina? I think historically, yes, it's a better job than North Carolina. I think in the current situation, like the thing that hangs over all of these ACC schools, like the sword of Damocles, is if the realignment crap hits the fan, what happens?
Right.
Well, the one school that's sitting there going, don't care, doesn't matter what happens, we're going to be fine either way, is North Carolina. North Carolina is the school the Big Ten and the SEC would fight over. Therefore, this is a different job because of that. Just that alone makes this a different job.
I would agree with you on that. Also, there's the financial backing of it. It's not proven at Florida State that they're going to throw money behind the next coach. You brought up Mario Cristobal at Miami.
Yeah, I would argue they are going to throw money behind the next coach at Florida State.
They're certainly not doing it right now.
Intentionally starving out Mike Norvell right now.
Right. They're kind of freezing him out right now. They know what they're doing in order to make conditions right to get rid of him. So
yeah. But I do think, North Carolina has money, which is also makes this Bill Belichick, Michael Lombardi roster building thing more mystifying. Like they have money, so why are you not using it?
Because they're trying
that way.
Because they're trying to outsmart the room. Classic Belichick stuff.
Well, that's what Brian Harsin tried to do at Auburn.
Right.
Well, he's like, I'm going to out-evaluate Kirby Smart and Nick Saban.
No, you can't.
No, they're also better evaluators. They just also happen to sign 5 stars.
Right.
So,
right. The college football is it's pretty clear cut. You need talent if you want to compete at a high level. You need talent. You can't outsmart it by taking the diamonds in the rough.
But I do, but that's why I think North Carolina would be considered a good job. It would be considered, depending on how things fall, it could be the number 1, number 2, number 3 job this cycle.
I would agree with you on that. I disagree with the sentiment that this is going to set UNC back. They will be fine. And there's enough proof of concept out there where you can quickly turn these things around.
Well, and that's the other part of this.
You have to have alignment. So,
but the thing is, the people who believe when people say Belichick needs time are not paying attention to college football at all, or don't understand college football in 2026. You don't need time. You need a smart coach and some money. That's it.
It's that simple.
Indiana went from utter crap to in the playoff in 1 year, national champions in 2 years.
Indiana ruined it for everybody. I said that.
Yeah, Cignetti's a special case.
He's a special case, which is funny that in all this time, you never would think that somebody like Kurt Cignetti is the special case. You would think getting Bill Belichick would make you the special case, but that just shows you the ridiculous of college football.
But I'll watch Oklahoma State this year.
Yeah.
Watch Oklahoma State. Okay. Worst team in program history last year.
Mm-hmm.
So bad that they had to fire the greatest coach they've ever had.
Right. In Mike Gundy.
Bet you they're good this year. Bet you they're good. They hired Eric Morris. He brought in good players. They spent money on him. Bet you they're good.
All right. One thing before we say goodbye, something you actually have on 3 today with the Big Ten Media Days taking place. The SEC is on an island right now when it comes to the college football playoff format. The Big Ten spearheaded 24 teams. They got Jim Phillips of the ACC and Brett Yormark of the Big 12 to kind of get in line and get behind 24 teams. The SEC wants maybe 16. My theory, my through line on all this always comes back to the Big Ten and the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12 don't have the same kind of television arrangements, right? The ACC, while in bed with Disney and ESPN, they're not the top dog. They don't work in concert. And they've got some other issues they have to figure out, right? Big Ten, I don't have to explain it. Big 12, I don't have to explain it. But the SEC and ESPN are tied together. They are one and the same, okay?
Yep.
And it's fairly obvious, and Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner, straight up said it, that ESPN doesn't want 24 teams because the price of the brick is going to go up. Greg Sankey's argument is that they don't know what the television appetite is for 24 teams. Is that Greg Sankey talking to somebody from Wasserman? Or is that Greg Sankey talking to Jimmy Pitaro at ESPN saying, hey, man, you got to do us a solid. We can't go beyond this because it automatically opens the college football playoff to all sorts of outside bidders, which brings in technology companies like an Apple, like a Netflix, like an Amazon to potentially outbid us for a lot of these things, or Fox looking for their on-air properties, right? How much of this is an ESPN-driven thing for 24 versus 16, and how much of this is the SEC?
Well, I would answer yes to both of the questions you asked.
Okay.
Is he talking to a consultant? Is he talking to Jimmy Pitaro? Because they have consultants who work for the college football playoff. And early next month, they're going to meet with the commissioners and they're going to present, hey, here's who we think might be willing to bid. And here's how much they might be willing to pay for a 2014 playoff. So you're exactly right on the 16 versus 24 part of it. If you're ESPN, you would like 16 and no more, because ESPN, under the current college football playoff deal, which, by the way, just started. Just started. Right. They have exclusive rights up to a 14-team field. So currently a 12-team field. 12-team playoff is 11 games. 14-team playoff is 13 games. So if you go to 16, well, that's 15 games. That's only 2 games that ESPN isn't contractually allowed to own. And ESPN could buy those other two, but you could potentially sell those on the open market. But if you only had two, do you know how many bidders you will get on the open market? The answer is 0.
Yeah.
So 2014 playoff has 23 games. That would be 10 games you could sell on the open market. 12 if ESPN decides not to buy the other two.
Right.
That would be interesting to Fox, which is partnered with the Big Ten, which pretty much bungled things during the last CFP negotiation by not submitting a competitive bid.
They did, yeah.
And they're like, oh, crap, maybe we should be involved in this thing. So there's that. Now, the question is, would a Prime Video, would a Netflix jump in and bid on something like that? And I think that's the answer everybody's waiting for. So if you parse Greg Sankey's words very carefully, and I've been in the room with him multiple times when he's discussed this, he has never once said, I am dead set against 24.
Yeah.
We don't want 24. In fact, all his coaches do want 24. What he said is, we don't know what the appetite for the extra inventory is. He is not exaggerating. The 11 games that ESPN owns are the most valuable ones. Down the line games are incrementally less valuable. So if you are going to give up your very lucrative conference championship game, which you would have to with 24.
Yes.
And if you're the SEC, if you add up media rights, ticket sales, sponsorships, you're talking about close to $100 million a year that you would have to give up. You have to be made whole. And not only do you have to be made whole, you have to be more than made whole.
So what's it going to take to get to 24? Are they looking for incentive?
Well, I had someone who's in the room tell me that if you add all the Power 4 conference championship games together, you probably get about $250 million in value annually. Just meeting that number is not enough.
Okay.
It's got to exceed it, and probably by a lot.
Gotcha.
You probably want 400 to 500 million. And there's a little bit of chicken egg problem with this, because the networks don't really want to talk serious coin until the commissioners settle on a format.
Well, not only that, there's two things. You got to settle on a format to see what exactly we're working on. You also have the NFL that probably wants to go to market sooner than later because of some change of ownership rules.
Oh, there's no probably. They are going to exercise all of their look-ins.
They're looking,
and because CBS just got sold, they can strap them over a barrel first.
Yeah, and Amazon, for kind of buried in all this, Amazon is no longer partnering with NBC to do their Thursday Night Football broadcast, meaning that Amazon is looking to have a full-fledged production arm when it comes to their NFL stuff, which means they're going to be in the running for this. Just like Google has YouTube TV that they're trying to continue to promote and take market share away from Netflix, et cetera. Clearly, Google, YouTube wants in on this NFL deal as well. So I'm guessing that if you're the television networks, you probably want to get your money right for the NFL brick going out before you decide.
Right, and that is the overarching piece of all of this, because that could change college football entirely if, say, Fox is put in a position where they have to pay more than they thought they'd have to pay for the NFL, because they will not lose the NFL. They consider the NFL to be an essential piece of their company. They cannot lose the NFL. So, that all is down the line. And that is hanging over all this. Now, let me add another piece to it. Who has an equity stake in ESPN now?
The NFL.
Yeah.
The NFL knows it. The NFL and the ESPN know exactly what they're doing. I talked to somebody in the television industry a while back saying that, basically it goes back to our almost decades long conversation about cord cutting and where television's going and things like that. And essentially it was you were right and wrong about cord cutting. Properties like the NFL are always going to get what they want, but somebody has to take a cut. Like, it has to take a little, not a pay cut, but not as much of an increase as they thought.
Right.
There are two entities, right? There's other sports leagues, probably college more than anything else. and then Hollywood itself, right? Like,
See, but I think Hollywood's taking the haircut
biggest
more
bath right now. They're taking the biggest bath on this.
because college football is a much more reliable ratings driver than scripted entertainment.
Yes.
Like a cheesy bowl game on a December Tuesday is a much better value than a scripted show.
Yes, absolutely. I would rather watch the Pop-Tarts Bowl is doing better numbers than.
No. Pop-Tarts Bowl is so far above what I'm talking about.
True. You probably, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the New Mexico Bowl.
The New Mexico,
like
those bowls. Yeah, that makes
that makes sense. So this is important. And college football is still in a position of power when it comes to this, because there isn't a sport other than the NFL that drives that many viewers that frequently.
Look, if the World Cup proved
not even the NBA does that.
Yeah, if the World Cup proved anything, if Gilio was here right now, he would scream, more is more, right? More NCAA tournament games, right? Expand the field. People will watch. They expanded the World Cup. People watched. It opened things up.
Live TV is the only way to get, or live sports is the only way to get people to watch broadcasts and the only way to get people to watch commercials. That's it.
That's why 24 is the answer. So that's going to be really, really curious to see how Sankey plays this. Because the last thing before we say goodbye, there was the 9-game incentive in conference play, right? That was
but that had nothing to do with the playoff.
Right, it had nothing to do with the playoff, but that is the last lever that the SEC could pull to generate more money. It,
right.
ESPN, it gets the coaches to agree to do things as well. It gets schools to agree to do things because, like, it's the Duke and Carolina basketball effect. Like, I need Duke and Carolina to go to Boston College. I need Duke and Carolina to go to Georgia Tech because that means butts and seats. Just like big SEC.
And that's the thing. The initial push for 9 games in the SEC came from SEC schools going, our schedules are so freaking boring,
right,
in this format. You have, like, do you know how many times Georgia has played at Texas A&M?
Was it 0 times?
0 times.
Yeah, 0 times, right.
Texas A&M has been in the SEC since 2012.
Not why Texas A&M came to the SEC. Well, I mean, they wanted to leave behind, don't get me wrong. But yes, part of it was we get games like that, which they have not gotten. So that was in play. And also the 9 games is a carrot to the expansion of the playoff. Like, okay, more conference games, tougher schedule. We'll be able to get a 2-3 loss team in because of our SEC schedule.
Yeah, I think that was the tertiary thought.
Okay.
I think it was butts and seats first because the call came from inside the house.
Yeah.
Then it was we made a below market deal compared to what the Big Ten made. We need to close that gap a little bit. So we're going to give ESPN a little more conference revenue or conference inventory, and they're going to give us some more money.
Yeah. Below market, maybe it was signing for as much as people bang on the ACC for signing a deal all the way through 2036, which was really a grant of rights play more than anything else. The SEC made the same mistake by locking in the ESPN for as long as they did. That's where the 9-game lever they could pull. But
even selling the old CBS package to ESPN for what they did, yes, they made a lot more money because they were grossly underpaid by CBS. But they didn't make as much money as they could have. Like, if you look at what that game, having that game, and ESPN then having the scheduling flexibility to put that game at 3:30 or at 8 and have these double and triple headers on Saturday, that you saw how they dominated ratings wise last year.
Yeah. Oh,
Sankey was still getting a bargain on that.
Yeah, Sankey will tell you. I know Petiti was up there with the 3 college football playoff trophies, but I'm sure Sankey was out there saying, yeah, that's cool. You got the trophies, but have you seen our ratings and the percentage? It just means Andy.
Nobody cares.
It just means
gotta have trophies too.
No. They've gone all the way to things like that.
Yeah.
Andy Staples on 3, the College Football Inquirer podcast on Yahoo is a fun listen as well. All right, man, I appreciate it. I feel bad for Ross on the Yahoo podcast, though. You guys keep doing these congressional updates, and it's like, this ends badly, right? Nothing's happening. I appreciate the updates. It's very much like Schoolhouse Rocks with Ross.
Well, this is the hard part of being a newsbreaker.
Yeah.
You have to take what people tell you at face value.
I know.
And you have to report it. And in this particular case, it's just such an uphill climb. And so as we record this, the deadline is actually passed.
It has, 9:40 in the morning.
But they'll extend the deadline, and they'll keep saying it, until recess happens at the end of next week. and no vote has been called.
Just collectively bargain already and get this thing over with.
Who knows? Listen, Joe. Maybe there's a Hail Mary. Maybe they get that vote called.
All right, I don't know. I'll send you.
There were guys saying that they had 70 votes in the Senate. Like, this is all you need to know. Like, people in Washington say things like this with a straight face.
I know. If you if there's a Hail Mary, as you say, I'll send you a 4-pack of OG Light and I'll send you a 4-pack of OG Lime. And
listen, I'm Mr. Negativity about this, and I feel bad because there are listeners who believe what these politicians say, and they'll tweet at me and Ross, and they'll be like, "But Andy says it's not going to happen." Wink, wink. And I'm like, buddy, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
I trust a coach on signing day more than I would a politician. I believe that upsell more than I would a politician.
You trust a general manager 3 days before the draft?
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do.
I would believe Dan Morgan more than a politician at this point 3 days before the draft, even with all the smoke they put out there. Andy Staples. All right, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Joe.
It would help if I put myself back in the camera here. Hi, it's OG Live. Sometimes I screw things up live. Big thanks to Andy Staples for hanging out with us from On3 and from the Yahoo College Football Inquirer. As I mentioned, some of these things I had a conversation with Andy earlier today, so just playing it here live. Some updates as we are live on Butcher's Market OG Live. When we were talking to Walker about the Panthers, very much in the mode of like, hey, hopefully nothing bad happens. Sure enough, more injury news has come out with the second day of being in pads for the Carolina Panthers. Their rookie wide receiver, Chris Brazzell, suffered a moderate lateral collateral ligament tear in his left knee in practice today. It was a non-contact play. It was apparently during 7-on-7. And this is a quote from Dave Canales. He felt weird on it, sat down. We took him in. We'll get a full evaluation, get a picture of that, and we'll give you guys more information from there. Well, the information is he's got an LCL tear. He's going to be out for at least 8 weeks. Looking at Mike K's Twitter account, Mike K, Charlotte Observer, frequent guest on this podcast, covers the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer, does a great job. He highlighted this at 3:27 in the afternoon. It's now 3:42 in the afternoon. Panthers plan on signing former Falcons wide receiver Casey Washington, a 2024 6th-round pick with 7 catches, 108 yards on his NFL resume. Xavier Legette, it's on you, man. It's time to step up. Look, bad luck happens. There's such thing as injury luck, good and bad. Unfortunately for the Carolina Panthers, their story so far, after an offseason of hype and some positive momentum, you're getting hit with this stuff early on, and I feel for you Panthers fans. This was an offseason of optimism. You wanted to ride this into the beginning of the season at least. Instead, it's, can you just get to week 1 with minimal injuries? We would greatly appreciate that. So that's the latest on the Panthers. And then with our conversation with Andy related to the Protect College Sports Act, Big Ten Media Days, and some of the news coming out of that, there really is no new news. I'm just going to piggyback on how we closed that conversation. Why anybody believes what a politician is telling you on top of what these leagues are telling you, they're not going to get, I believe they're not going to get the Hail Mary they're looking for, but they're going to have to do it on their own. And it goes back to something that Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner, talked about during his State of the Union address, his commissioner's forum, that if they don't come to some sort of resolution on some uniformity, then the failure is on them, the stakeholders in this, the commissioners, the ADs, and the presidents. If it's going to take this bill falling through in D.C. for them to finally get that to click for them and they can actually make some positive momentum towards collective bargaining and some uniformity, all the better, because man, this stuff in DC is dragging on, and I don't understand why anybody believes it's going to end the way that these leagues want it to end for them. Yeah, since we're live today, Gordon, I had to take a quick break there before bringing you on, just to make sure that there was no new breaking news related to Michael Lombardi or North Carolina or any of that stuff. Although I guess in Michigan, Gordon Miller joining us now. Miller Lending, hit him up, 919-447-3377. I mean, could be worse. Could be going through Michigan's bullshit, right?
Just another week up here. It's, while you're watching for Lombardi news, I'm watching for Tarek Skubal news. But yeah, Ann Arbor was very patient. They were patient for a lot. I mean, Ward Manuel wasn't even gone after Sharon Moore had his girlfriend. But when Dusty May left, that's it.
That's when we got a problem.
That's
when we got a problem.
That's
where are you, by the way, in Michigan? You're on a parking lot? What are you doing here? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm out. I'm outside Kirby's Coney Island up here in Bloomfield Hills, because I was hungry, but I didn't have time to eat yet, so I'm going in there after the show. Okay. And just so you know, this is where the same place that Clues Coney Island gets their hot dogs from. He gets almost everything sent from Michigan. So I'm hanging out, ready to have basically a Clues Coney Island plain hot dog right now. I'm ready.
And of course, you would have a plain Coney Island dog, which is very, very Gordon. Wait, hold on.
Well, they have a special. It's $1.99 on Coney dogs this week.
So you're telling me, Dan, Clues Coney Island, there in the Mission Valley Shopping Center over by NC State.
Yes.
Let's see. We're coming up on 30 plus years now with Clues. Is it that old now? Dan's been
at least
for a very long time.
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very
No, he had his anniversary. I think he's good.
Okay. Does he go up to Michigan to get all this stuff, or does he get it shipped down?
It's shipped.
Okay, good.
It's shipped down. But that 30-year thing you mentioned, you just had that confused with me, because I'm now 30 years and a month into the Raleigh mortgage market.
Oh, geez. Wow. It's been that long. Well, you know what, though? That's a good sign.
That's crazy.
But that's actually a good sign that you've been doing it for so long. Longevity matters. Clearly, you have people who believe in what you're doing. And I think sometimes people's eyes get open to what's happening at other places. And wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. As I like to say, the math does not math sometimes. Which is
I just stopped into the bank, and the guy had bought a house a couple months ago, and he did a buy down. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, yeah, those are good. They're good as long as the date the rate works.
Wait, what's a buy down?
So on the buy downs, so right now, and we have these as well. Right now, what there is you could buy down the rate 1% the first year. So for folks that are kind of stuck with rates sitting around 6 3/4, although in a half hour we got the Fed announcement, and we'll see if rates do anything today. I don't think the Fed's going to raise or lower, but it might have caused rates to back up a little bit. But aside from, honestly, we're just trading war news, to be honest. But what you have is, as an example, the year one would be at 5.75. You'd have that for 12 months, and then they go to 6.75 for life. So in cases where somebody really needs to go ahead and cut payment and save as much as they can, maybe they paid down on their mortgage balance, $100,000-$200,000. So even if they just refinance the remaining balance, it still may be manageable for them, or consolidate some debt. But we don't have any closing costs, and this allows you the opportunity to get 1% lower for a year. In that example, if you had worst case, if you had 5.75 for a year, and then you had 6.75 for a year, for those 2 years by themselves, just standing alone, you're averaging 6 1/4 for the first 24 months. That's pretty much better. Well, you're not going to get a no-cost loan right now for 6 1/4. So, that's the dilemma that borrowers are facing is, do you pay 20 grand to get these rates, or, the buy down is attractive with us because it's free.
Okay.
So if you're not paying anything, you take the rate below 6, and then when rates ease up, you can refinance for no cost.
I love when we stumble into a use case that I did not know existed. Some of our listeners did not know existed. And more importantly, illustrates what I say all the time about Miller Lending. Have a conversation. See what works for you, what might not work for you. As I've always pointed out, and you love to point this out, Miller Lending might tell you, now is not the time to do anything, right? Just play this sort of thing out. It's all about making sure that whatever works for you, your ideal situation, is what they're going to work on rather than whatever the ideal situation might be for the lender, right, Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back, I don't know when if it was before I think you and I even met, but I started off doing mortgage radio here on 620.
Yes.
And with Trader Dave Alexander, and we would do all sorts of stuff on there and have fun. What Dave would point out is that I turned away more business than I did because the model that we built, when you're a family business, when you're local, when you're in this market, you've been in this market for 30 years, people are going to see you at a game, they're going to see you at a soccer field, they're going to see you everywhere. You've got to go ahead and do something right in order to last that long. But it's our concern for the borrower that makes us different. When I hear ads, skip 2 payments, you can even skip 2 payments. Yeah, you can skip 2 payments if you want to pay interest on interest. That's fine. We can do that. Everybody can do that. It's not unique to any lender, although I do appreciate that they're now saying no closing costs at the end of their ad. So that's a nice shout out for me. I always appreciate when other companies start to mention no cost. But the one thing I was thinking of doing, I've done ads for 30 years, I've been on the radio forever, is just when you try to find another way to explain it to folks, not to pay closing costs. My issue really is with my industry, because if you're a mortgage loan officer, you've got to have an idea based on your last 10, 20, 30 years of experience, 40 in my case, what rates are doing, when they might be heading lower, what might cause them to head lower. You have a president that wants rates lower. I'd be really surprised if heading into midterms, we're sitting there looking at a 7% rate. I would be shocked. But you just, how do you not mention no cost loans to folks if you know that the likelihood is they're going to be right back to refinance? That's how I started in '86. People were refinancing like every 9 months because rates were dropping, and people just paid closing costs every time because nobody really cared to suggest anything different. That's all we're going to do is just tell you if it's right or wrong. Gordon Miller Lending. Call them up, 919-447-3377. MillerLending.com is the website. I need a full Coney tour when we're there in April. Although I will be in Detroit. I will be in the Detroit area in January for travel hockey. Oh, good luck. I'll be in Raleigh. So I guess we'll cross paths in the air as I'm headed up. It's really cold up here in January. That's why I'm never here. That's why we're going, because the kids are thinking hockey. About some pond hockey. We got to get on an actual sheet of ice out there. I know it's possible to do in January. Oh, it was possible to do 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about? Given the weather we've been having here, I'll take that anytime. Well, when we're up in Traverse City, which is northern Michigan, for those who know or don't know, and it's very beautiful up there, but it's also very, very mild climate up there as well. So, yeah, we got in the 50s last week. So, dude, I know you're jealous. I am actually very jealous, very, very jealous. All right, Gordon, we'll talk to you later, man. One more thing, man. Yeah. Gift baskets. What about? Don't forget. When you guys go ahead and contact Miller Lending, should you close a loan with Miller Lending, you get this amazing, massively expensive gift basket, which will be delivered to the office by Joe, the other Joe, who is not in here today and doesn't know that I'm offering him up. But Joe's been at the office every single time we've closed a customer from you guys, and the gift baskets are great. They're what? It's not, me, because you always point out how expensive the gift baskets are. So if anything, I feel like please go refinance or buy a house, use Miller Lending to close on that house, because I can tell it sort of kind of bothers Gordon.
like, man, I got to get another gift basket. So just do it for me.
I love the gift baskets.
Because anytime it annoys Gordon, I get a little bit of joy out of it. So by all means, go make that happen.
It's my human victory cigar. It's my Darko Milicic moment, or should I say Bronny James moment now. But yes, I as much as it might seem like it bothers me, I actually love it. Which is why we're now lending in Columbus, because I love the Buckeyes.
Oh, right. You big Buckeye guy, Gordon Milishker, as he's
100%.
Michigan. All right. Cool.
Yes, you got it.
We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Of course, now I'm craving a Coney dog, but that's another matter altogether. All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe. Hey Joe brought to you by our friends at Brassfield Accounting. Check them out online at brassfieldaccounting.com. This comes to us from social media. This is from JD Moore on Blue Sky. And so he writes, so Trailblazers going to be NBA champions in 7 years, huh? And this was in response to a story of former ESPN anchor and, well, formerly now Portland, Neil Everett, finding out that he lost his Trailblazers job by reading about it in Forbes. Now, that is a shitty way to find out that you are no longer employed. Unfortunately, this happens too often in our business, right? You know, we heard about Ryan Clark at ESPN. He finds out in the middle of an NFL live taping that he was not going to be back at ESPN. He was going to be part of their rounds of layoffs. Bomani Jones, our friend and contributor here on this podcast, frequent guest, he found out that the radio show that he had was going to somebody else in the newspaper. So again, these are really shitty ways to find out that you're no longer employed. Now, specific to Dundon, I responded to this on social media, and I'll respond to it here on Hey Joe, and I'll probably spend more time talking about this on Mailbag on Monday, because I find it odd that Dundon's entire playbook is an open secret, so to speak. Like, maybe open secret's the wrong way to put it. Dundon's playbook has been playing out in real time with the Carolina Hurricanes since he took it over. And if guys like Bill Simmons, I mean, who am I to tell Bill Simmons what to do? He's the guy who sold his podcast outfit for millions of dollars to Spotify, right? So what do I know, right? However, if I did have some constructive criticism for Bill Simmons, who gets into conspiracy corner about Tom Dundon, the Portland Trailblazers, and here's what's going to happen. Buddy, all you got to do is do a skosh of research with what Tom Dundon has done with the Carolina Hurricanes and how he's essentially applying all of those lessons, all things that he already did with the Hurricanes, and he's applying them to the Portland Trailblazers immediately because he's learned a lot of those lessons. Now, he'll learn some lessons about how the NBA and the NHL are different, but if you're Tom Dundon, the billionaire who doesn't give a fuck, I mean, I really don't know how else to how to put it. He doesn't give a fuck. And it's worked for him. He's a billionaire, number one. Number two, his first team that he owned as a professional sports owner just won the Stanley Cup. Okay. Yeah, he's going to run this playbook. This should not surprise anybody. It should not lead to any sort of conspiracy stuff. What happened in Carolina, here in Raleigh with Tom Dundon, is playing out exactly with how it's going in Portland. And all you got to do is ask somebody who covers the Canes. That's all you got to do. So I find it really, really weird that we've kind of hit this point where folks are kind of apoplectic as to what's happened with the Portland Trailblazers and trying to find deeper meaning in it. There is no deeper meaning. He's done it already with the Hurricanes. I know Al Hood, who contributes to a variety of different places, Tar Heel blog, Canes Country as well, I guess took something that I wrote on Blue Sky about this and he expanded on it on Canes Country. I have not had a chance to read it yet. That's why I said I'll probably expand on this a little bit more on Friday during Mailbag so I can actually read what he had to write, what he wrote about that thought. related to the Carolina Hurricanes, Tom Dundon, and what's going on with the Portland Trail Blazers. I have other theories. Like if you actually wanted to get in conspiracy corner, the idea that, he's doing all this because he wants to move the Portland Trail Blazers. Yeah, no shit, dude. The same thing happened with the Hurricanes when he first took over the team. They could not escape. He's going to move the Canes chatter, right? But again, we saw how this all played out, right? I have some actual conspiracy theories as to Tom Dundon's moves related to the Carolina Hurricanes, but we can explore those at a later date, potentially in mailbag. So we shall see. Let's see. From Brant, just saying hi from the Space Mountain line at Disneyland, out here for daughter's 16th birthday. I love that. I absolutely love that you're in line watching the podcast. Shout out to Brant. Now, I will say this about Space Mountain at Disneyland. They've refurbished it. It runs a lot smoother. It runs faster and is an overall better experience than Space Mountain at Walt Disney World at the Magic Kingdom. And I will say that when they go Hyperspace Mountain at Disneyland, you want a hot take. Hyperspace Mountain in Disneyland is the best Star Wars themed ride at Disneyland and Walt Disney World at Hollywood Studios. Better than Galaxy's Edge. It's better than Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Better than Rise of Resistance. Hyperspace Mountain's where it's at. I'm just saying. From James on the YouTube, Mike Malone should study. I'm assuming you meant should study in detail this bill collapse because he isn't far away. I understand some of the 1-for-1 with Belichick and Malone. They're not, though. They're not the same person. It's not the same sport. And they're not going about this in the same way. If anything, if there's anything related to basketball, it's more of a question of what's Jim Tanner's role with Mike Malone? Because remember, Tanner was brought in as a general manager with Hubert Davis. He still has that job. What is he doing exactly? I think that's probably a better question to ask. From RLG, UNC is building a case to fire Belichick for cause to not to pay his buyout, potentially. Although guys getting fired for cause, it never goes the way that you think it's going to go. And there's usually negotiated, settled buyouts. And maybe that's what it is. You're not getting fired for cause, but maybe they're trying to take a little bit off the top of that $10 million buyout after this year, which again, if we know anything about Belichick, man, he ain't doing that. So he's not taking a haircut to get fired. He's going to get his 10 mil one way or the other. From Matt, can we get Lombardi a band necklace too? I'm sure Jordan's got some thoughts on that. So, and yes, RX, you're right. Mike Malone didn't hire Lombardi. Exactly. And I'm not trying to oversimplify, but I've said this and I'll continue to say it. As long as Michael Lombardi is the general manager of the Tar Heel program under Bill Belichick, you cannot take them seriously because that is an unserious hire for a school that should be more serious, or at least attempted to be more serious about basketball. It's as simple as that. Let's see, from Freddie on Twitter. Thankful for the OG20 discount. Ordered 3 more Rowback polos for my upcoming fall work schedule. I love to hear that. OG20 is the promo code. Use that promo code. If you haven't done that already, now's a perfect time to do it because they keep dropping new stuff over at Rowback. If you have used it, may I suggest you fire up another email, a burner email of sorts, because that fall collection that's coming out here soon, fall and winter collection, they got some new heat coming. You're going to want to check it out. So again, big thanks to Rowback. Check them out. Rowback.com. Use that promo code OG20. And we'll get out of here on this. Let's go to the OG sports phone, shall we?
919-444-2211. Call the OG sports phone and curse or don't.
This is from a 336. It reads, Ovies, what's up with the Jed Porkins beard looking to bag some womp rats with your speeder on Tatooine? All right, first and foremost, 336. It's not Jed Porkins. It's Jack. J-E-K. Not Jed. Jack Porkins. Okay. If you have no idea who Porkins is, he's the guy in Star Wars, the original Star Wars, A New Hope. That's the first casualty of the Death Star run. He's a portly man in an X-Wing, and he gets blown up. Amusingly enough, if you don't know what Jack Porkins looks like, I'm going to pull it up on YouTube so you know. This is what Jack looks like. Are you saying that with my mustache, I look like this dude? That's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me. Slightly insulted. Now, I did not realize this until I was older, but the actor who plays Jack Porkins was also the same guy who I believe represented the CIA in Raiders of the Lost Ark as they were looking for the Ark itself, the Ark of the Covenant. He also was he wasn't the commissioner. He was one of the detectives in the Tim Burton Batman movie, who ends up getting shot. He was a crooked cop. And then he was also in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. He's in some other movies too, but he's a great character actor. You're telling me I look like this guy? That's what you're telling me. Man, guess I'm shaving when I get home. Actually, I'll see what Brownlow has to say. Brownlow will be hanging out with us on Mailbag Friday. We've already got the obvious Love Island question for Brownlow. So if you've got any more questions, by all means, hit us up. Leave a voicemail on the OG Sports phone. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on Blue Sky. Hit us up in the YouTube comment sections, all that kind of stuff. It'll be there. We'll discuss it, and we will see you on Friday for OG Mailbag. Big thanks to Andy Staples. Big thanks to Matt Brown from Extra Points. Of course, big thanks to Walker Mehl. Big thanks to you. 5 stars only. Positive vibes only. We'll see you Friday.